Welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody, where today we're going to be taking a look at the 12.7mm pistol and its unique variant. So the 12.7mm pistol is a bit of an odd pistol since it doesn't seem to be based on any actual handgun. It's kind of a mishmash of guns, and I don't know of any gun that actually functions like it. It's most likely based on the 14mm pistol that was in Fallout 2, which is also a weird gun, and I don't think that that's based off of anything either, but I could be wrong about that. So the 12.7mm handgun is probably going to be one of the later game guns that you find. There's not a whole lot of places where you can find this pistol. There is a few places where the pistol can spawn, and there's a few enemies like the Great Khans can have the 12.7mm pistol on them. But even then, so long as you're not fighting with the Khans, I don't think I've really been shot at with the 12.7mm handgun. It would probably be kind of scary because it is fairly good. Let's go over the stats of it, where this one requires 75 guns to wield and 7 strength. That is a lot of strength for a pistol. Most pistols do not have that much strength. A lot of guns too, but if you're going with a guns build, that's not such a big deal. It's more that 7 strength that might actually give you problems because not every guns character wants to go that high into strength. If you're going with a 50 cal, then this may not be an issue and you actually want to hit those requirements. This one does 40 damage per shot, which is fairly high, especially for a handgun. This one does 110 damage per second. You can shoot out the 12.7 fairly fast. This one does 40 crit damage, same as normal damage, has a 1x crit modifier. This one only costs 17 action points to be using in VATS. It's actually really good in a VATS build. This has the most spread out of any handgun in the game at 1.1. So it's the least accurate, which is kind of an issue. You only really want to be using this at close range. This one has a magazine of 7 rounds in it, which is okay. The magazine animation is a little bit weird too. That kind of bothers me about this weapon for some reason. This one also weighs a lot for a handgun at 3.5 weight. That's a massive amount for a handgun. And this has 80 item health, so it doesn't have very much item health. For the pros of the 12.7mm pistol, this one does do high damage and high damage per second. At close range, this can actually rack up quite a bit of damage. That is really nice. Cons to this though, the high spread is definitely one of them. It is not a very accurate handgun, especially compared to some handguns like the Ranger Sequoia. So it feels substantially worse at longer ranges. Ammo's a little bit limiting with what your choices are. It's not such a big deal since all the 12.7mm guns have high base damage. So even though they just have the regular ammo, hollow points, and jacketed hollow points, it's not too bad. We'll talk about that in just a second. And this weapon does have low item health. It's going to break itself fairly fast, which is a little bit annoying for a weapon like this, especially if you don't have jury rigging. If you have jury rigging, not such a big deal because you can just repair it with any other handgun. There isn't really any perks that help out with this one either. The only kind of perks that do help out with it are action point perks. So Math Wrath, Action Boy, Action Girl, those type of perks, Gunslinger, all of them help with this particular weapon, but that's only if you want to be using them in a VATS build, which does actually kind of help because if you're using this at medium range where the accuracy isn't that great, then VATS is actually a really good option. It's also interesting that the 12.7mm is not a sneak-in weapon, no matter how much sneak you have, so you can't sneak this into places like you can with other handguns. The unique version you're supposed to be able to, but I believe that it's bugged in the base game. I have mods that fix that to where it works the way that it should. But in the base game, I think Little Devil is actually bugged to where you can't sneak it into casinos, even though it's supposed to be a regular sneak-in weapon, so it doesn't matter how much sneak, or at least it's supposed to mean that no matter how much sneak you have, you could sneak it into a casino, or just any of the holdout areas. As for the different ammos that we do have the regular 12.7mm rounds. These ones do regular damage, regular armor piercing, everything normal. These are going to be your best options for fighting armored enemies because you don't have any armor piercing rounds. You have hollow points, which give you more damage against non-armored enemies, but make it so enemies do have increased armor, so it can be kind of bad against big things that have a lot of armor. And then you also have the jacketed hollow points if you have the hand loader perk. These ones give you a bit more damage, not quite as much as hollow point rounds, but pretty close, and they don't give the enemy as much armor. So these ones are better against light armored enemies and still non-armored enemies. Usually I'll be loading regular rounds or the jacketed hollow point rounds into the weapon. I do find the 12.7mm pistol to be a little bit awkward, and it's not really one of my favorite pistols, which is why I think I'm just going to put this one into B tier on my tier list. It's still quite strong. It still is really good at close range. It's just by the time I'm getting this, I usually don't see a reason in using it when I could take something like the Survivalist rifle that has better long range and just better overall damage and has perks that affect it and is arguably better in a VATS build too. Or I could take the 12.7mm submachine gun that just has more damage and more damage per second. Well, it doesn't have more damage per shot, but it has a lot more damage per second. And that one I can just spray down enemies with a lot better. There is a modded version of the 12.7mm, but the only mod you can put on this is a suppressor, so I'm not going to add another graphic to the tier list. because it doesn't really change it that much. Since you can't sneak this in, it doesn't really help it. I do like the look of this weapon a lot more once it has the suppressor, and the sound that it has once it has the suppressor on there. I think that is much better than the regular 12.7mm, but it doesn't really change it substantially. It's similar to like adding the suppressor to the 1911, where it's good, it's cool looking, but it doesn't really change the weapon all that much from what its role already was. And let's move over to the unique version, which is called Little Devil. You can buy Little Devil from Mick and Ralph's. This is going to be a very expensive weapon because this is a Gunrunner's Arsenal weapon, so it's going to cost you a lot, and it is basically a full price weapon. At least I think it's Mick and Ralph's, or is it Gunrunner's? Yeah, it is sold by Mick and Ralph's, but if Mick and Ralph are dead, then you can buy it from the Gunrunners. Little Devil requires 75 guns and 8 strength to wield. It has the highest strength requirement out of any pistol, and that's higher strength requirement than almost any rifle besides like the 50 cal, and I think the light machine gun and maybe the Bowser. I think those are the only like rifles, and I would argue the light machine gun and the Bowser are more heavy weapons anyway. So yeah, about the 50 cal is the only thing that this is out strength requirementing, which is really weird for a handgun like this. This one does 45 damage per shot, so quite a bit more damage per shot than the 12.7mm. This one has 146 damage per second. Its damage per second is a lot higher because you can shoot it faster. This does 45 crit damage, which is also really good. This one has a 2x crit modifier, which is one of its biggest bonuses. It's more likely to hit crits, which is very nice. This one has even lower action point cost at only 15, so it is one of the best VATS weapons in the entire game in terms of shot for shot performance. This one has better spread than the regular pistol, but it's still pretty bad for even by pistol standards at 0.9. You still want to be using this at close to medium range, not really at long range. Little Devil is not as good. If you're going to be doing that with a pistol, the hunting revolver or the Ranger Sequoia would be much better options than this. This still holds 7 rounds in it. This one weighs slightly less weight at 3.2, which is still fairly heavy for a handgun. And this one does actually have pretty good item health at 120. That isn't going to break super fast. Little Devil is all around just a straight upgrade from the 12.7mm gun. And I do think that it is one of the better handguns in the game, especially with its low action point cost and its double crit chance modifier. I don't really prefer this over certain handguns though in New Vegas. I would still rather have like the Ranger Sequoia or Light Shining in Darkness than Little Devil, but Little Devil is pretty good, and I'm going to put this one on the low end of S tier. I think it's one of the better handguns overall, even if it's not personally one of my favorite handguns. It would also be better if you could sneak this into areas like you're supposed to be able to. It would also be better if Mr. Holdout had Little Devil too, since that would be more fitting for him to be selling this weapon. Same thing goes with like Sleepy Time. I think that would be a better weapon for him to be selling. But either way, tell me your thoughts on Little Devil and the 12.7mm pistol. How do you enjoy this? Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye everybody.